during the COP29 session on slow food, low impact, advancing sustainable tourism with local agro-products, experts analyzed the connection between local agriculture and sustainable tourism, emphasizing its role in reducing environmental impact whilst boosting local economies. According to a chief sustainability consultant at COP29, for the first time in COP history, over 90% of the food served on-site has been locally sourced. The session also highlighted how integrating local agro-products into tourism promotes cultural preservation and ensures biodiversity.
To minimize the negative impact of the food consumption during COP, we implemented a policy that we are sourcing most of the products. Over 90% of the products, food products at COP will be locally sourced. That means much less footprint associated with the transportation of those products. And then whatever food is waste, we are using composting facilities on site so that any food waste is composted into fertilizers, which will then later be applied here in Baku for greening the space.
A professor at the University of Cambridge explained how slow food reduces the environmental impact of tourism.
As an academic and an expert in system approach applied to political economy means the kind of incentives are given to the entrepreneurs who are into slow food business to ensure every element of their production and distribution are as much as possible carbon free. So the packaging to the handling.
The meeting highlighted the potential of integrating local agriculture into sustainability efforts, whilst acknowledging the challenges of upscaling these practices to ensure lasting global impact beyond COP29. The COP29 climate conference will adopt a declaration on reducing methane emissions in the organic waste sector. Lead negotiator Yalchin Rafiev announced this during a press conference. The declaration commits nations to include food waste reduction targets in future nationally determined contributions.
As of this morning, more than 30 countries, representing almost 50% of the global methane emissions from organic waste, have endorsed the declaration. This includes 8 of the world's 10 largest emitters of methane from organic waste. Today's declaration is also part of a wider package to drive mitigation this year. This includes pledges and declarations on energy storage, grids, green energy zones and corridors, hydrogen, digitalization, cities, and tourism.
Also, the declaration is expected to enhance cooperation in managing organic waste worldwide.
At the One Health conference held in COP29, multiple aspects of health were discussed. One Health is originally an initiative of the World Health Organization. It applies an integrated, unified approach that aims to sustainably balance and optimize the health of people, animals, and ecosystem. Budimir Plavsic and Galib Abdulaliyev elaborated more on this initiative, discussing its importance.
One Health is the concept where national authorities and other stakeholders, institutes, research organizations, universities, stakeholders, producers, distributors, non-governmental entities collaborate together to prevent and to control all One Health issues. One Health is related to the health of humans, public health, to the health of animals, and also to the health of environment, including plant health. The importance of this collaboration that we first do proper assessment of the risks, then that we prepare good strategies and prepare our health services and workforce to any issue which is related to zoonotic issues. Zoonotic issues are diseases relevant to animals and to humans. And majority of diseases which affect animals, they could transmit to humans.
Building on this, Galib Abdulaliyev, head of department for the Azerbaijani Food Security Organization, known as AGTA, highlighted Azerbaijan's implementation of the One Health strategy, focusing on early detection, rapid response, and the addressing of zootonic diseases, antimicrobial resistance, and veterinary product regulation.
Today, in the frame of COP29, we are discussing about One Health concept. One Health concept, it is the implementing in the world for last 20-25 years. It is bring together all efforts, the animal health, human health, and environment safety. The experience has shown that during the many years, all pandemics was the microbiologicals with the animal origin. And all the infection diseases of the people is related with wild animals. Therefore, it is very important to prepare the national strategy, which is today will be presented to the discussion. National strategies cover all aspects of the zoonotic diseases, the early detection, rapid response, and the development of the preparedness of the country to the zoonotic diseases, etc. And also our action plan include to the antimicrobial resistant regulations, the control of the turnover, the veterinary medicinal products, which is implemented in the future.
At COP29, Azerbaijan demonstrated in no uncertain terms its leading role in implementing the One Health concept, which is for the greater good and survival of humanity and the natural world.
Save Soil is urging 80 non-governmental organizations to increase climate finance to support farmers. The NGO is calling for regenerative agroecological practices whilst attending the Climate Change Summit in Baku.
Agricultural soils are not considered as much as they should be when they're part of the solution. So we have a policy brief that was introduced to UNFCCC, and the policy brief was released a couple of days ago. Less than 1% of climate finance actually goes to agricultural soils and therefore supporting the farmer. So we want to bring this issue up, and this is why we have the policy.
She says that these efforts are critical to those in the most vulnerable communities to ensure sustainable food systems and mitigate the effects of climate change. COP29 hopes to set a path toward long-term ecological and economic benefits.
A step closer to green is a step away from red. Now behind me stands a symbol of innovation and sustainability, the Garadagh solar PV plant. This is the largest solar power facility in the Caspian region, and it was built at the cost of $262 million in foreign investments. Each year, it generates 500 million kilowatt hours of electricity, and it is enough to power 110,000 homes. Built on a former Gobustan oil site, the 230 megawatt Garadagh plant powers over 110,000 homes and cuts CO2 emissions by over 200,000 tons annually. It connects to the national grid through a 330 kilowatt line to the southern substation. Experts highlight that overcoming challenges will depend on collaboration and open dialogue.
As you've seen in the site, it includes more than 500,000 solar panels, and it's being, of course, cleaned by robot. So we have more than 600 robots cleaning the panels every day. Azerbaijan is a core market for Masdar, and the Garadagh solar PV project is the first project of Masdar here in this strategic country for us. We've signed an agreement with the Ministry of Energy to develop 10 gigawatts of projects, which include solar PV, onshore wind, offshore, and green hydrogen potential. And the first phase of this 10 gigawatts pipeline came to realization earlier this year, where we signed the project agreements for 1 gigawatts of projects, including 2 solar PV projects and 1 onshore wind project. And during COP29, we've also announced the financial close for the 2 solar PV projects. And we continue working with our strategic partners and stakeholders, the Ministry of Energy, Azar Energy, and of course our strategic partner SOCAR, to advance the development of the 1 gigawatts, as well as in parallel looking to further expand our footprint in the country. We've also
also signed an agreement with Aqua Power and SOCAR to develop offshore wind, utilizing the potential of the Caspian Sea to generate green power from the offshore wind. Well, the transition of the energy to the green power is a process. It required partnership, innovation, and collaboration. Without these three key factors, we will not be able to achieve the goals. However, at the same time, there are certain challenges that need to be addressed.
2 new projects are underway as part of a 10-gigawatt renewable energy deal between Masdar and Azerbaijan.
We go now to Georgia, where the political landscape remains tense following the parliamentary elections held last month. In the capital, Tbilisi, protests continue to grow as opposition groups challenge the legitimacy of the results. Our Leila Rahimli brings the latest from the ground.
We are reporting from the Georgian capital, where the political landscape remains dynamic following the parliamentary elections held on October 26. Let me guide you through today's events and their broader context. Early this morning, police intervened in protests near Tbilisi State University on Chavchavadze Avenue, a major thoroughfare in the city. Organized by opposition groups such as the Coalition for Change and the Unity National Movement, protesters had blocked key roads for 2 days, demanding a rerun of the parliamentary elections. While the right to protest is firmly upheld in Georgia, authorities stress the importance of maintaining public order. After issuing a 15-minute warning to clear the area, police moved in to dismantle the barricades and tents. The Minister of Internal Affairs stated that while protests are a protected right, deliberate disruption to traffic and citizens' daily life are not permissible. The situation escalated when clashes broke out between police and protesters. Special forces intervened after demonstrators set fire and identified substance near the university entrance. 16 individuals were detained on charges of alleged disobedience and hooliganism. In response, President Salome Zurabishvili announced plans to file a lawsuit with the Constitutional Court, alleging breaches of constitutional principles, including ballot secrecy and universal suffrage. Adding to tension, Zurabishvili has been meeting with opposition leaders who dispute the election results. During a meeting at the Orbeliani Palace, opposition figures proposed forming a People's Parliament, suggesting that has sparked mixed reactions. Tbilisi Mayor Kaha Kaladze, who is also the General Secretary of the ruling Georgian Dream Party, dismissed the idea, reiterating his party's claim of legitimacy. The people have spoken and we will continue to focus on Georgia's development and stability, Kaladze said, reaffirming the party's commitment to peace, security and economic growth. Internationally, the crisis has drawn the attention of the European Union amid concerns over democratic backsliding in Georgia. EU High Representative Joseph Borrell announced plans to send a mission to assess the situation. Borrell emphasized the need for significant reforms, warning that Georgia's path to EU integration is at risk. While reassuring Georgians that the EU's door remain open, he called for decisive action to addressing irregularities observed during the election. So, despite the police intervention, protesters remain defiant, vowing to continue their demonstrations. And this is Leila Rahimli reporting from Tbilisi, AnewZ.
Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan initiated a significant government reshuffle. According to Armenian media, the Prime Minister summoned the Minister of Territorial Administration and the head of the State Revenue Committee. Following the meeting on Sunday evening, both officials submitted their resignations. Reports also suggest that the Minister of Internal Affairs has resigned. Earlier, we spoke to the expert on the political situation in the Caucasus, Dr. Gagik Ohadzanyan from Russian Academy of Natural History, to explore the possible political implications of this move. To say that Armenia is a completely sovereign state, capable of making decisions with significant regional impact on its own, would be naive. This is not to diminish Armenia, but rather a reflection of reality. Not all countries in the world can conduct what is called global politics. Some focus on internal governance, organizing life for their people. Others are capable of conducting foreign policy, building relationship with neighbors and other states. And then there's a global politics which is beyond the capabilities of most nations. So to claim that Pashinyan has absolute freedom to make decisions on global matters is unrealistic. The question is to what extent Armenia is influenced by states capable of global politics, those with an interest in nearly everything happening on the planet. It is no coincidence that Pashinyan is meeting with the Pope. For instance, if the Pope suggested Pashinyan travel to Baku, could Pashinyan refuse? On the other hand, why wouldn't the Pope, as a vice figure promoting peace, suggest such a visit? But it hasn't happened. There are leaders who could encourage dialogue and cooperation. If Pashinyan visited Baku, it would be a positive step. Events in our region should not be ignored. We must participate and show goodwill. Issues like ecology are crucial for everyone, and collaboration is essential. I must admit that in Pashinyan's actions, I initially saw much wrongdoing. The senseless loss of lives during the war, both Armenian and Azerbaijani, was tragic and unnecessary. I have my own view on the 44-day war, but that's history now. However, we must learn from this and move forward. Our societies must mature to understand that people cannot be genetically incompatible. We are destined to live side by side, and accepting this could make things easier, especially for those responsible for shaping the future for our children. Earth is small, and we are all connected in countless ways. Dialogue is crucial. Instead of focusing on our differences, we must embrace our shared values. Our mothers raise us to respect elders, to be honest and decent, not to take what is not ours. These values unite us and form a common foundation for peaceful coexistence. We must continue to communicate, cooperate, and live together.
Before the news on the attack broke, Moscow said the use of Western non-nuclear missiles by the Ukrainian armed forces against Russia could lead to a nuclear response. Kremlin stated this after Russian President Vladimir Putin approved an updated nuclear doctrine. We spoke on the new nuclear doctrine by Moscow with Russian expert, political scientist Dmitry Solonikov.
The adoption of Russia's new doctrine reflects the changes in the current geopolitical process. It's clear that the doctrine evolves depending on Russia's relations with various international agreements. This includes its relations with NATO countries, the United States, the European Union, and the United Kingdom. The growing tension in these areas is a result of Russia's shift in this doctrine. We understand that the previous doctrine already reflected a challenging period. However, we have now moved from those difficulties to a far more complex process of escalation than what we faced even a few years ago. Many are now emphasizing that the world is on the brink of nuclear war, potentially even closer to it than during the Cuban Missile Crisis of the 1960s. In attempting to prevent a nuclear war, Russia is asserting its firm positions. It warns the opposing side not to gamble with nuclear weapons, not to provoke aggression against Russia, and not to threaten strikes deep into Russian territory. If such actions occur, inevitable conflict will arise. In the 20th century, this understanding of the inevitability of a retaliatory strike and the certainty of nuclear catastrophe for the entire globe acted as a deterrent. Both the United States and the Soviet Union refrained from taking extreme measures against one another. It was clear that the retaliation would follow and there would be no victor. Now a new generation of Western politicians has departed from this perspective. They believe that nuclear war could result in victory and thus feel emboldened to provoke Russia with various actions. These include authorizing strikes on Russian territory using American weapons and personnel, albeit ostensibly from current Ukrainian territory. For Russia, however, such acts are effectively aggression against it by the opposing side. The status of intermediate and short-range missiles has changed. The status of treaties aimed at controlling the nuclear arms race has also shifted. All of this is reflected in the current doctrine. Russia commits to defending its allies and states that its retaliatory actions could target not only countries with their own nuclear weapons, but also those whose territories serve as launch points for such weapons. It's unnecessary to involve additional forces or international actors in this confrontation. Neither Ukraine nor Bulgaria nor Eastern European countries that previously had no nuclear weapons. Yet suddenly there is the potential for aggression from their territories against Russia. Why? This is the basis for the current warning. I wouldn't say it was specifically timed to coincide with Bulgaria's announcement of this decision. However, this decision to permit strikes on Russian territory was anticipated, and the changes in Russia's doctrine were prepared in advance. These are not decisions made overnight. This is not a document drafted hastily. It reflects not a momentary situation, but the accumulated problems in the confrontation between Russia and the West that we have observed in recent months. Russia was well aware that authorization for strikes on its territory could be granted by the West. It's likely a coincidence that Russia's decision was announced after the West made its own. Both sides had been preparing their respective documents. Now Russia has once again made it clear, in the current confrontation in a potential global war, there will be no victor. Russia will not allow strikes on its territory by the West to go unanswered. Another warning has been issued, clear and unequivocal. We hope it will be heeded and that the world will not descend into an uncontrollable military phase of confrontation. That is the situation as it stands.
A family of 7, including an 8-year-old girl, have been confirmed dead by officials after a landslide buried their home in a town north of the Philippines. A 79-year-old man was also killed in his car when power lines collapsed. Residents say the floodwater has made their lives challenging.
The flood water from the typhoon and the surrounding provinces gushed here because the elevation of the land is lower here. The nearby river passes through here to Tarlac province. That's what caused the flood here. It makes our lives difficult. It's hard for us, especially for those without sufficient food. It's dreadful.
It was so strong that our houses were destroyed and our roofs were blown away.
We were expecting our house to be like that because the typhoon was strong. It was wind signal number 4. When we returned, it looked like that. Where will we be staying temporarily?
Mani is the 6th storm to hit the country in the last 30 days. During last month's storms, at least a total of 171 people are reported to have died. The government's plea for assistance has been met with support from the international community, with aid coming from the US. Officials say Mani is headed towards Vietnam with winds of up to 110 kilometres per hour and gusts of up to 135.
Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement faces a significant blow as 45 activists are sentenced to prison for up to 10 years. They are accused of organising an unofficial election in 2020 to select the best candidates for an upcoming legislative election. Amongst those sentenced is Benny Tai, a central figure in the 2014 Umbrella movement. He received the longest sentence of 10 years. He was charged with orchestrating the primary to select pro-democracy candidates for the Legislative Council. Whilst the activists defended their actions as being in line with Hong Kong's basic law, the court ruled that the primary would have led to a constitutional crisis. The trial stems from the 2019 protests, which were sparked by a controversial extradition bill. The Hong Kong government postponed the official legislative elections, citing COVID-19 health risks. In July 2020, an unofficial primary election drew over 600,000 voters to select candidates challenging the pro-Beijing government. The aim was to secure a legislative majority and push for democratic reforms. After the protest, China imposed a national security law leading to a crackdown on pro-democracy leaders.